Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
So let's take a look at the Forex factory. It's going to be a quick one today. Don't really have a lot of time. Do note that was a really fairly quiet last couple of days while DC is trying to hammer out some sort of stimulus package, as you guys may have heard. I think that's why the devaluation of the dollar has started to run again last couple of days. But we do have a big event tomorrow, Wednesday. Chairman Powell speaks. This is typically a Q&A base, but it's an economic club in New York. And then, I don't know, who knows? I guess they probably do it just via Zoom, but you never know. You can always say something. Mr. Powell is exceptionally experienced in not roiling up the market, so I have much faith in any craziness, but you never know. So just keep in mind that as well. Bank holidays abound in the Japanese region of the marketplace through both Wednesday and Thursday. So just know that as well. So let's take a quick look over to the charts. For those of you just joining us, I posted the Telegram channels for everybody. Yeah, I think I probably posted my own in there, huh? That's interesting. So these are the ones I have in the notes every weekend in the back office, but in any case, let's go to the charts. Just a quick look at the S&P, new highs, Dow, new highs. Okay. Remember, the S&P is a better way to view the equity markets from a U.S. perspective. Don't look at the Dow. 30 stocks versus 500, big difference. Taking a look at the dollar. Okay, now I mentioned this weekend, we had a little bit of an increase in our resistance line, which essentially tied in. We were probably going to experience a pullback since it was a fairly decent rejection of the area, albeit I guess one can't argue that this one candle here was a big old rejection from it. It did start us back down towards, so this actually maybe could hold here. I would expect us to revisit this depending upon how much more devaluing our country is going to do with the stimulus or group of packages coming out. There's supposed to be some sort of infrastructure bill, but we'll see. They usually make a mess of all these bills, but maybe I'm wrong this time. So that's my view, just daily chart on the dollar kind of here. By the way, the Q&A window is open. If you guys have any questions on anything, let me know. One thing I am also going to post here, since I continually have people contacting me and it's really related to them not being able to experience, in my opinion, a fully verified track record for one's own accounts. That is a pretty decent video shot by some guy named Justin that goes through all that. Always could be a challenge to hook that up, but that video does a good job. You can also send an email to support. From what I understand, they're beginning to understand us as Auvorian subscribers as a company, so they've been a little more responsive, from what I understand, to any requests for support. A lot of it has to do with getting where is it? Getting the key thing is with this is you want both these track records verified up here, okay? And that's really the idea behind all that. I'm not going to get too into that today, though. I just wanted you guys to see that. Let's talk more about the charts. Euro USD. It's the opposite of what I just showed for DXY, right? So as the euro is beginning to lift a little bit, notice here's the dollar, right? It almost looks like the opposite chart. Not perfectly. Remember, this is just a one currency compared, the euro as a single currency compared to the US dollar, whereas the DXY, I posted my Telegram channel. This is an amalgamation of several currencies. in varying degrees, with the euro having the heaviest weight overall in this. So just know it's not a direct comparison, but it's close. Lifting, pretty decent support area, as was the opposite on DXY, so lifting off that. GBP USD, now notice we've broken out here, so a lot of times when I can't see anything in the rear view mirror, if you will, of analysis, I will automatically switch to a weekly chart, right? And it gives us the next areas. So I'm assuming that all things considered equal, and there's no crazy news coming out of any Brexit discussions, we should, at some point, if the dollar continues to fall, we should see this area right in here. So I would argue 4236-ish area, anything above 4200 for that matter. Go ahead. All right, so let's take a look at GBP, JPY. Okay, so we're seeing essentially the same thing as, maybe a little bit less we're seeing against, just pound continuing to lift. We are very much at a point where we could see a tight bounce, just because of the fact this was another big area of resistance. Again, switch back to the weekly chart so we can kind of see right in this whole 48.37 area. Let's say 48.20-ish to about 49. Maybe even a little higher. 49, 43, something like that. Cool. Let's go to Euro JPY. Holding, pretty big area. Keep in mind this is a weekly chart. Let's drop back to daily. Less strength, as you, I should say, can't always be the case, but generally speaking, less strength on the dailies versus any pattern that's developing on a weekly. Higher the time frame, typically the stronger the pattern or the solidity of a support and or resistance area. Euro JGBP. Let's drop back to so as the pound continues to strengthen, I've got to believe this whole 8700 area is probably it for the short term. Let's take a look at weekly. No, I changed my stance on that a little bit, but it's a pretty big area. Pending any craziness, I would expect this to hold for some period of time, which is good for a lot of the martingale systems begin to trade in a tight balance on the daily chart. US DJPY. Now, in this particular case, note obviously the dollar started heading down, right? So no surprise, but notice how well these moving averages sometimes can be. Just looking out. So I put the dots on these moving averages. You guys can see what we are as far as the settings on them. This is what's called the fancy triple moving average. So the 200, the 50, these are just SMAs in terms of their, but the whole idea is you want to pay maybe not as much attention to the 50-day, although oftentimes that can halt some sort of advancement depending on the time frame. Certainly, again, higher time frames, daily chart, weekly, can sort of hold in or reverse in many cases like this one. This actually was a pretty decent trade from a longer term perspective. So maybe like a swing trade short on the reversal here. I talked a little bit about this last weekend. Probably should have, because it was one of the better setups from a longer term swing perspective that I've seen in some time, provided the weakness of the dollar was going to hold that level and then just continue lower. Bitcoin to the moon. Here's gold. still continuing to be constructive inside this whole 70, these 172 area. Seems to be an area where we get under it, it just reverses back up, and spent a fair amount of time in there. I think the interesting thing on the whole silver trade, which has been pumped by some of the social media groups, like the Wall Street Bet guys. We had a huge lift, and then I would imagine the shorts just came in and sold off a bunch, and/or a lot of longs took profits up here on this, which arguably, by the way, is a great example of an island reversal. So you have a huge gap up. It trades down from the gap. Remember, it finished lower, right around 26.80-ish, from an opening price of right in the area of 27.73, even though it had the range of the whole wick, both higher and lower. As you guys can see, we traded lower, and then we had another reversal. So this is typically a fairly decent short if you could get somewhere in this, not necessarily trading in an after hours, but as far as the short. Now what you'll probably continue to see now is that we shook out all the weak hands, and now if we truly are going to continue to move up in this metal, they'll start to climb a little bit. Notice we were one time framing for 2 days, another hammer reversal in this particular candle, albeit small, and then that's a bullish move typically for the next day. Is really only where you can sort of bet the odds on something like that. Now let's just see, oil has continued its trend higher as we have thawed out from the ice age in different parts of the world. What else do I want to mention here? Let's take a look at AUD CAD. This thing's been stuck in the range for a while. Let's take a look at the USD. Just notice there was that same reversal, but notice he's all held. It's literally like everything US style related just came right up against its support or resistance line, and boom, just reversed right off it. So it's great stuff. Line's been working well as far as potential reversals and trades. GBP NZD still stuck inside a tight range. We take a look at, what am I missing here? I know I had a question. Take a look at AUDJPY. So I should probably keep this on the screen. Okay, daily chart on the Aussie yen here. Again, it's all related to, this country's had a lot of strength just in general. Look at that reversal. Look at any sort of longer term chart. We'd have to go back to weekly on this thing. See the bigger picture. So coming up, I would argue right in the area of 83.50. It's probably be the next stop. This is more of a longer term target. It's not short term. Short term target's probably somewhere in the area of where we are now. Take a look at just the daily chart. Can't get any color on this, so you've got to move to the weekly. See that? Got to look for what I call candles in the rear view mirror. So ideally, this should serve short term. When we get there, how we get there, I don't know the answers to these questions, but that is the target. If the strength continues, there could be a pretty decent reversal off of this level. It's dependent upon how well the Australian economy continues to perform, which is pretty good so far. All right, so let's also take a look at the opposite side of the yen trade. Let's take a look at Swissy yen. So we'll start off with the daily chart here first. Actually, let me go back to weekly here. Looks like I have any data. Interesting. Limited data on this. I don't know what's up. problem with a lot of these crosses. Great data. So the whole 117 area is basically the ceiling here, and the floor is right in 115, 50-ish area, 60. I'd expect us to be in that range unless there's some big moves on either of these currencies on either side of the equation, right? Let's take a look at the request I had for the NASDAQ, continuing its ascent of ridiculously overpriced tech stocks that think they rule the world in terms of how they can have their platforms run. But it is going to be a cruel day coming soon for some of these big tech companies, not only in a correction, but more than likely there's going to be some regulation on the lunacy that abounds on some of their platforms. Take a look at a weekly on this. See, when you haven't even formed any kind of support or resistance on a weekly, or for that matter, any kind of support or resistance on a daily, other than maybe a couple of bars, it's not good. I mean, you're you're just continuing up. You know, I always get the same question from anybody, whether it's a client or a student or somebody that's an Auvoria subscriber. Why does this thing, along with a lot of these other markets, just keep going up and up and up? Well, when Federal Reserve banks, or any central bank for that matter, that has the ability to sort of develop or continue to build out the printing presses as the Fed does, when everybody seems to turn a blind eye to it, the music continues to play at loud decibels, and the booze keeps flowing into the party, and everybody continues to get drunker. But in this particular case, the party has not come to an end. So when the market runs out of liquor or drugs or whatever the hell fuels their party, and then the music turns off, it's going to be real interesting to see how many chairs are left over. So I, along with many who aren't smart enough to catch the top or the bottom, but do know the signals to look for to maybe sit on the sidelines for a nice fat correction, I'll be happy to do that and or go short the market. All right, what else? Take a look at a 4 hour on this thing. 4 hour on the, I'm sorry, 4 on the DXY. Notice we've been, and this is a little bit shorter time frame. I don't show this much, but I like to see the importance of one time framing down. No, it is a smaller time frame, obviously on a 240 chart. But keep in mind that, you know, we've had 1, 2, 3, it was almost 5 one-time framings down. Usually when you see that, any kind of pullback into it's going to get sold again, and that's what you have. We weren't one-time framing down straight, but it was close. That's a lot. So we'd expect that to come into this 90 area on a shorter term and maybe cool out for a bit. But a lot of that could be completely wrong on my analysis. It's really dependent upon what's coming out of DC. What's the market getting a whiff on? Let's see. Can we have your opinion on crypto overall? Yeah, I don't really. The problem is with a lot of crypto, I just don't trust what's going on, because you could have, you know, some billionaires you certainly see with Elon Musk and Dogecoin. I keep calling it Dodge. I don't know why the name just sounds like the automobile company. In any case, with Dogecoin, you have you know, billionaires coming out and tweeting about it. I mean, how can you formulate any trading opinion? I mean, I'm watching this just for the hell of it, right? And the only reason I'm actually watching this is my partner's son just put like 20K into this, back 2 cents a share. And he's made a mountain of money on this. We told him to sold here. He rebought back in here. He just sold up here. He's not, you know, waiting for it to come way down, essentially, and maybe trade it for the last shot higher, and then this will probably poof out. Now, in the case of Bitcoin, switch back to daily, you do have a fair amount of, I don't know, time, if you will, that's been spent to build out what I consider to be a decent group of candles on either a daily or weekly chart, right? So just looking at the monthlies, know this is kind of hard to sort of, see if I can just tone this down. So I came out, this was, you guys would have to hunt through all my Twitter stuff, but I came out publicly, which I rarely do, maybe a couple times a year. It's basically like whoever the hell is in, I would sell the whole thing right now, or at least 3/4 of the position. And it turned out to be a great call. Damn thing dropped all the way down to 4K, which arguably I was actually talking about at the time. Really should have put my money behind my mouth on this, because it would have been a hell of a trade. And I didn't. I only put like a few grand into this thing, which was stupid, just because I thought it was just going to go poof. But I was wrong on that call. But I mean, it turned out to be great. I'm out of it. I'm completely sold. I don't have any positions in any accounts in any client. I don't even have any form of this in any kind of ETF, just because of that chart. It's plain and simple. Yes, it could go to 100 grand. It could be wrong, right? But I don't care. I'm too busy looking for the next Zoom or something else that's going to rock and have real value and real earnings that I can actually track and analyze. So, right, wrong, or indifferent, that is my that's my plan. Let's see. So crypto. Let's go through the rest of these questions here. Yeah, I don't have any comments, Nick, on 23andMe. I don't even know what the stock symbol is on it. Everybody keeps telling me I should order up to sort of prove how much Italiano I got in me. Order up a 23andMe, but I don't really care. I'll just have to stick with what my grandma said, right? She got off the boat in 02 from Italy. Hang on 1 second here. All right, got that straightened out. I know Dasan is considering, for the question I just got on this, Dasan's considering getting a chat-based group in Telegram. I don't know to what degree. If I was him, I would have very stringent rules on participation in this group. No crazy videos and pictures of dancing monkeys when you have profits and all that stuff. I mean, it's all great, but yeah, the inordinate amount of time that many people spend on that stuff would be best served going through a Daisy Duncan's Forex course. It'll teach you a lot more. So I wish everybody a great week. I wish you much health and happiness. And any questions at all, keep them for next time. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. May the trades be with you.